Recently, there's this talk that has been going around lately about this famous game called No Man's Sky and its developer Sean Murray. Ever since the game has launched on the PS4 and PC, it has left a controversial or mixed taste in the consumer's mouth. Others were criticizing the game for either not meeting up to the expectations or hype, or technical issues. Others enjoyed and loved the game. Now, moving that aside, the game has led to an interesting controversy that has been going viral on the internet lately in the gaming community. Ever since an anonymous Redditor user posted an article entitled "Where's the No Man's Sky We Were Sold On?", the internet exploded. The purpose of the article was to expose the so-called lies that Sean Murray has promised that will be in the game. Due to the lack of those features, some of the population of the gaming community became outraged and started to gun down Sean Murray. People of the internet began to call him a liar, a scumbag, a dishonest little prick who lied to his consumers about the game. In fact, some people will go so far that they will pledge to even put him under a law prosecution for practicing bad advertisement. Sean Murray wasn't looking too well, unfortunately, and it became the general opinion, thanks to the anonymous Reddit user, that Murray was a big liar. Despite the wild accusation that has been flowing around the internet, some people in Reddit began to send messages where they applauded the anonymous user, Mid Wanker, as a hero who exposed Sean Murray. At the same time, though, he mysteriously deleted his account due to a nasty backlash of death threats he received according to his personal anecdotal story. So was this Redditor really a hero as some people depicted? Or was there some guiltiness involved with the entire article itself? When I heard about these so-called missing features and from promises I was interested to see whether there is any truth to this claim. Unfortunately, after doing a cross-examinations of his claims, it turned out that he wasn't completely innocent either, as we will see starting now. In the Reddit article, it was announced that No Man's Sky was to have planetary physics, where planets would orbit around the sun. The author in the article blamed Sean Murray for lacking this feature. This was one of the lies that Sean Murray lied about, according to the general consensus, as we can see here coming from the PS4 E3 presentation.
And I'm going to pull back a little bit more to give you a sense of the size of the game. But when I do, I really need you to keep in mind, to understand that every one of these points of light is a sun. And every one of those suns has its own solar system with planet-sized planets orbiting around it.
Planets are orbiting around it. This does indeed sound like Sean Murray was talking about planets orbiting around the sun. Due to the lack of planets orbiting around the sun, some people became outraged about it and using it as one of the reasons, as framing him as a dirty liar. However, I want you to listen to these two distinct audio clips where Sean Murray talks about planetary physics. Listen very carefully. Here is an actual audio recording from IGN's videos, No Man's Sky, 21 minutes of new gameplay.
I mean, everything looks totally different as the night has turned to day,
yeah.
rather.
Well, and day has turned to night because the planet has actually rotated on its axis.
So, according to what Sean Murray has said, we have day and night cycles because the planet is rotating around its axis. Okay, that's clear, but listen to this one, which is from IGN's video entitled How No Man's Sky Infinite Universe Works.
Like, I can walk in any direction for days and days and weeks if I want, and I'll walk all the way around the planet eventually and come right back round to where I started. And it will go from day to night and back to day again, and that's just because we're orbiting around a sun, like a real sun.
Here he says the world has day and night cycles because its planet is orbiting around the sun. What is this? What we found here is a mere contradiction. In the first audio clip, Murray said that day and night cycles are caused by the planet rotating around its axis. Yet in the second audio clip, we have Sean Murray answering the same question but with a different answer. That is, a planet orbiting around the sun instead of its axis. Same question, different answers. How can this be? The problem here is that when Murray was talking about planets orbiting around the sun, he most likely meant of planets rotating around its axis. This contradiction can be explained merely as an oxymoron and misusage of words. It is not that Murray has lied about planetary physics, but that he simply didn't express himself clearly. Perhaps if Murray would have hired a spokesperson, none of this confusion would have happened. Despite the confusion going on, some people have criticized Sean Murray for other reasons. For instance, Murray has claimed that the physics behind every other game is fake due to a skybox involved. However, in one of Murray's interviews, he claimed that in No Man's Sky, you will see real physics behind the game. That is, you will see planets rotating around their axis. Despite what he claimed, he was constantly gunned down by people criticizing him for not because he said such a thing, but because the game seemed to lack the feature of planetary rotation. That is true. The game really doesn't give the appearance of planets rotating at hindsight. Even a certain group of people have uploaded videos on YouTube ranging from 5 minutes to 2 hours entirely testing to see whether the planets do rotate at all. To their disappointment, they found absolutely nothing at all. Planets didn't seem to rotate at all due to the lack of this feature. Murray was criticized as a big fat liar. However, this accusation has more to do with ignorance of the facts coming from the media rather than Sean Murray lying. By doing enough research, it turned out that Murray did indeed keep his word. The only problem was that the developers of the game decided to reduce the planetary rotation effect from the Day 1 patch. According to No Man's Sky Update 1.03 source, planet rotation, playtesting has made it obvious people are struggling to adjust to this during play, so its effects have been reduced further, quote unquote. So it seems that there indeed is planet rotation in the game, but since people had difficulty adjusting to the changes caused by the rotation, Sean Murray has decided to reduce the rotation effect significantly. To what extent has this rotation effect been reduced is unknown. Now, as for those skeptics who thought that such quotation was just a lie, cover up to make it seem as if there was planet rotation involved, there are actually forums and even YouTube videos where users who obtained the game earlier claim that they have experienced planet rotation in the game. However, when they mentioned they have updated the game with the 1.03 update, that is the Day 1 patch, they reported that they have no longer seen a rotation in the game. In other words, either the rotation in the game was reduced significantly to some unknown extent or it was removed. Now one must ask ourselves, why did the Redditor left this simple fact out? Maybe if it wasn't for his ignorance and false accusations, none of this would have happened. But it has, and it will continue to remain that way for those who either refuse to listen to the facts or want to continue bashing Sean Murray. Truth is, Murray has never lied. It is only the community who has been inflating and distributing the disease, the misleading information to the public. As the saying goes, ignorant begets more confidence than does the truth. Now, as for the accusation that the developer of No Man's Sky has lied about there being ring planets like Saturn in the game, following the source the Redditor user added, it turned out nowhere in the interview, which was done by Game Informer, has Murray ever stated there will be ring planets. Instead, Murray said that there could potentially be ring planets, just that they haven't done it yet. Here is the podcast, which was also recorded
we haven't
in
shown
late
that
2014.
yet. But yeah,
Okay.
like I think that's if it's in sci-fi and in sci-fi book covers, we kind of need to do it.
Notice a simple phrase here, what Sean Murray has said. We haven't shown that yet, and we kind of need to do it. Basically, for those who understand the English language, you will realize the ring planets have never existed in the game. Rather, Sean Murray said of there being ring planets as a mere potential, rather than a statement of absolute. This makes a huge difference, given that it shows nowhere was Murray in any indication of the interview ever promised that there will be ring planets. What does this mean? It means that the author of the Redditor has taken the interview quote out of context, in other words, coal mine, and added words into Murray's mouth of him being the promise of ring planets when such was never indicated. The fact the Redditor didn't get his facts straight actually gets much worse than that. In the Redditor's article, he claimed a lot of missing features in the game, but thanks to the people who checked up the facts, it turned out that he didn't get some of his facts straight in the first place. On many points, he actually got so many things wrong. For example, he put that the game was missing butterflies, rivers, bugs, and so on. As it turned out, though, there were actually butterflies, rivers, and even bugs in the game, as stated Redditor's site. That is 3 things he got wrong. Going even deeper, he claimed that animals don't hunt other animals, that is, eat meat. Yet, take a look at this video. Oh, and let's not forget about his criticism about how in the game you are unable to scan while in orbit. Turned out he was also wrong about this. That's about 8 or 9 things he got wrong in his article. It is clear that he obviously did not do enough research in the game. His criticism against the game and against Sean Murray are premature at best due to the many mistakes he got about what the game was missing. One must ask ourselves then, just how reliable was this Redditor who criticized the game? I think the answer is quite obvious. As for his criticism that the game lacks resource distribution, turned out he was actually wrong about this too. Let's take a look at what Murray has stated about trading.
About exploration anyway. When you fly out into space, I actually often like to just sit there. It's quite nice because you can watch like a space station, especially a busy space station, a busy spaceport. You will see trade ships kind of exiting the space station, often going to freighters, docking with the freighters, picking up some resources from them, ferrying the goods into the space station. You'll see them flying all the way down to the planet, gathering resources from trade posts, ferrying resources back up to the space station or back up to freighters, and you get to kind of sit there and watch the kind of trade economy just in motion.
Does the game have traders distribution? Yes, it does. Actually, if you look at the planets in the game, you may sometimes notice a trail line in the game. That trail line is where traders go to gather resources from the planet, as well as vice versa. How he could have not noticed this is beyond me. Now it's true, there are indeed some features that are missing in the game, such as that ability to land on asteroids, NPCs, lifting off anywhere, and so on. But was it because Sean Murray lied? Not exactly. The features where Murray claimed you can land on asteroids, NPCs lifting off anywhere, and so on also date all the way back to 2014 as well as 2015, which were almost a year to 2 years ago. The issue here though is that people need to understand that the game in that time was still under development. Given that the game in that time was under development, any feature in the game at the time was tentative and subjected to modification or termination. Yet the author of Redditor makes no mention of this whatsoever. Rather, the author acted as if the developers made a promise. However, upon seeing those sources, which I have clearly demonstrated in this video, I see no mention anywhere, not even in the audio clips, where the developers promised such features to be in the game. Instead, they only mention them as mere potentials, rather than absolute statements. Also, some of the features that the Redditor described were based on his observation of the game that was recorded in 2014 and 2015. That is, instead of the Redditor relying on the words from Sean Murray, he deliberately took notes with his own eyes from the 2014 version, showcased the game, and listed everything which he thought were missing in the game. Instead of justifying those missing features from the mouths of the developers, he only constructed based on what he saw from the videos, from the old videos. If you look at the videos which he cited, you can clearly see that some of the missing features he listed are present in the 2014 version. And that's exactly what the Redditor author did. Now, it is a fact that some people here in the internet are trying to defend the Redditor by saying that he provided backed up evidence with videos, interviews, and so on. Yes, he provided those sources, but just because he did doesn't mean he has proven his case. A source itself does not determine evidence or proof. One has to look at the source first and cross-examine with that of the person bringing up the claim. If the source doesn't fall in parallel with that of the claimant, that is the Redditor, then it's rather obvious who's wrong here. I did my research, I examined those sources, and found nothing that parallels with that of the Redditor's claim about those missing features being promised by the devs. Yes, those features were present in those sources, and yes, they were indeed mentioned. But the real issue here was that there was no indication under any circumstances that the developers made a promise. Yes, Sean Murray did indeed say there will be multiplayer and able to land on asteroids, but one thing that needs to be kept in mind though is that those interviews were recorded in 2014 as well as 2015, with only his few sources being recent, that is 4 months ago. However, it was clear that Sean Murray was answering those questions from his interviews about the game that was based on those older versions of the game when it was first of all clearly under development. Using a little bit of common sense here, it doesn't take much to see how can there be differences between the game at its early stages with that of its final stages. Another point here. Even if Murray was being completely honest in his interviews, the lie can still come about by the mere fact that he changed, that is, added or subtracted the game. Obviously, since it is a common practice for developers to change games from its early stages and make it look like something different at its final stage. The former and the latter are what triggered the confusion. People are accusing Murray over the old version of the game versus that of its final release. It doesn't take rocket science to find out why it would be foolish to expect the game to be the same as its final product when it was still at its early stages with no consensus yet what features should be implemented in the game. This is what needs to be realized. It's the very nature of how games undergo development. Things get added and subtracted all the time during development, which shows at best that there was no promise as claimed by the Redditor article. The only promises that exist are those who exaggerate it, as well as are ill-informed about the facts behind, such as the anonymous Redditor who mysteriously deleted his account due to supposed death threats. It is clear that the Redditor simply did not do his research clearly. So, did Sean Murray lie? No, and those who are framing him as a liar are simply ill-informed or simply ignorant about the facts. I hope that this video becomes viral soon so people can understand what really happened and see that the Redditor wasn't a hero and wasn't either completely innocent. Thanks for watching.